I'm going to give you a little bit of background first, because that's part of the testimony anyway. But born a little, we grew up in a small town, and the town we grew up in was all Christians, quote unquote all Christians. Even later, when we started a bus route, we started in a church, and we were going to start a bus route in this town, and you couldn't get any kids to come to the bus route because everybody went to church, even as we got older. So we grew up in a town where everybody went to church, but on the weekends, before the church, before that, Fridays and Saturdays, all the folks that went to church, I went to junior high and high school with, all the folks that went to church went to party too. And I grew up in a home that was, my parents divorced at 2, and then at 3, and then at 5, my stepdad took me down to a courthouse, and my biological father turned his rights over. My stepdad adopted me and retained his name. And so that's, my name's since White Anderson, because I have 3 last names because my parents don't like me, but other than that, no. But so anyways, I grew up with a stepdad and mom, and I had 3 siblings, and I never really fit in with them. So just kind of bitter person. I just didn't like life really very much. And as I got to be a junior high and a teenager, the hormones and the life started kicking in. I really started not liking things. And I was bitter at my parents because they had split up, and my stepdad and my mom were struggling with their own things. My mom wasn't in church. My stepdad was an alcoholic and a drug addict. And there were a lot of things going on. You know, that if tequila got involved, so the anger and violence and a lot of fear and scare, nothing like any of the other testimonies. I was just a bitter person that perceived things a lot worse than they were, and didn't like life. One time even with my, I don't tell many people this is new, but one time even with my friends, conspired, not very successfully, or we didn't go very far with it, but we talked about how we could get rid of my stepdad and change my life, and maybe we could go live with my dad. And just a couple of times my dad would come get me, he'd steal my heart from my mom, and then send me back, and he wouldn't show up for years and years, and he'd say he was coming, and I'd sit in the window and wait, and my mom would have my bag there, and I'd have my probably a blanket and a stuffed animal or something. I was hungry, and I'd have it there, and I'd be waiting, looking out the window, waiting for my dad to come, and he'd never show up. And then my mom would drag me off to bed, and I'd do the same thing the next day, and then go to school, and then the next weekend, I'll come next weekend. And I don't know, like I said, it doesn't seem like to me, compared to others, too much, but for me it hurt, and it caused a lot of grief, and a lot of bitterness, and a lot of unforgiveness in my life. And even in high school, I was telling something yesterday, even in high school, I hated God so much because of the hypocrites that I went to school with, and because of the things that were going on in my life. I hated God so much, I would curse Him out loud to, I guess, talk poorly about the Christians, right? Yeah, y'all go to church, and they talk about church and stuff, and I curse God. And then I met my wife. She was in 9th grade, I was in 10th grade, and she was this cute little thing, and I loved her, and I don't know, the first time I saw her, I loved her. I was an idiot, known as everything, but I wanted her.
Are you saying he was an idiot because you loved her?
No.
That's the way it came across.
You know,
I was wondering,
no, not at all. I'll say this, she won't say it. She's the best lady I've ever met. And I don't mean that to flatter her, she just is. I've never met anybody as patient as she has been with me, and as prayerful, prayer warrior for me. But anyways, we got in high school, and we met in 9th and 10th grade, and as much as I could love somebody, I loved her, and ruined her life, but I loved her and wanted to, I just wanted somebody, and she was the somebody I found. And we got married, had Shelby, then got married, and there were a lot of conflicting issues with that. We're 2 young kids, and my mom wanted us to give Shelby up for adoption. Other family members wanted us to abort her, and we were just sitting here, just little kids, and we were like, we don't want to do that, and we don't want to do that. And my mom's like, well, you need to get married then. And I was like, well, so we did. In June 2000, we got married 25 years ago, and we went to, my wife finished her junior and senior year in high school with a baby on her hip. We would take them to the daycare until we got tired of daycare treating her bad, and then some person would take care of her for a while. And then I finished my senior year. Almost went to the military, but looked back at my wife and daughter and thought, I can't leave them here, and so didn't. And then I worked at a mental hospital for 17 years, And a lot of crazy stuff went on there. Tongue in cheek, no pun intended, it just happened. And then during all that time, we were struggling. And my wife, she's told a lot of this already, but she went to church with my mom, got saved, and I didn't go. I wouldn't go to church. I hated God. I didn't want anything to do with it. But I got tired of being alone on Sundays. And so one day I came out dressed, and she's like, "Why are you dressed?" And I want to go see what you're doing. And some of it was probably wanting to see what she was doing. Who was she? Was she seeing somebody? What was going on? Well, I don't remember. I just remember what she tells me. But so I went to church, had a profession of faith at 14 or so, but I wasn't saved. So I went to church for 15 years with that, and 5 years with that, and finally got saved. But salvation doesn't change your past. It doesn't change your nature. It doesn't change all the baggage that you have. So, in 2005 I got saved. In 2006 I became more physically violent than verbally, and my wife went to live in a shelter for 3 weeks to get away from it. And I told you, I fell in love with her when I saw her. I didn't want to be with anybody else. And she left, took the kids, and I was like, something's got to change. And we couldn't go back to the church we had gotten saved in because I had a hot temper. And I never was a good person up to a long time. I had a hot temper, and I did not treat the pastor very well, so we couldn't go back. We probably could have. He would have forgiven us, but we couldn't go back. And when she was in the shelter, we were reconciling, and we said, we have to go to church somewhere. We have to go to church. And so we were trying to find a church. One Wednesday, we were going to the shelter church for a while. It was a charismatic church. And then one Wednesday night, we showed up, and the doors were locked, and nobody was there. So we're like, call the pastor, like, "Hey, what are you doing? Where are you at?" He said, "I decided I need to go back to my church and work on the marriage and do some things." We're like, "Oh, thanks." So we're like, "Well, where are we going to go?" So we drove around looking for a church, and we pulled into a church about 7:30, and we weren't going to walk in there. And so we said, "Okay, we're going on." And Sunday we were going to go to church, and I don't remember. Nikki will probably say something about the timeline. I don't remember the timeline well. I have a terrible blank memory. I don't remember much of my childhood or anything else. I'm just going on what folks have told me so I can know what happened. And we were looking for a church, and we had a tract in our house or something. It was a tract for Trinity Baptist Church in Wills Point. And we're like, okay. So we went to the church, and we showed up, and we're going to every service, right? So the pastor gets up and he says, "There's going to be a teacher's meeting tonight." We're like, "Oh, I don't know what that is." So we showed up to teacher's meeting. We showed up to evening service, and we showed up to the Wednesday service, and we showed up to all the services because we wanted our kids to be in church. We wanted our marriage to be okay. Where did the tract come from? We don't know. We think that a bus worker brought it by and saw kids stuck in the yard and left it on our door. We think that's where it came by. We talked to some friends later who were bus workers on that road, and we think that's how it got there. And we got to church. We were there for a few months, and the pastor took us out to dinner and said, "Are y'all going to join the church?" We said, "I don't know what we're here. What are you talking about?" So I'm gracious when people come to church and don't know what that's all about. But so we joined the church, and I told the pastor, I said, "Well, I feel like I'm called to preach." And he said, "Well, he said, "Oh, that's good to know." And then I get a call later. He said, "Here's Bible college you need to go to." And he just enrolled me in Bible college. My Bible college picture, my hair's a mess. I didn't know how to brush it. My tie, I didn't know how to tie, so I had somebody tie. I think I had him tied or somebody tied it. And it was all cattywampus and off to the side. And it was a mess. I was in Bible college. I was trying to learn. I was driving 70 miles one way to Bible college, working double shifts in Terrell at the mental hospital and never sleeping. I think my record was 51 hours without sleep. And just going, running a bus route, leading singing, teaching a Sunday school class, working with the youth, and going to Bible college. All the while, my family was falling behind. My family was falling apart. Started the church in 2012. Graduated in 2011, started the church in 2012. And for 8 years, pastored the church in my own power. My mom always said that I could do whatever I put my mind to, and I was going to do that. I was going to pastor a church. We were going to grow the church. It was going to be great. We grew the church to about 50, and people got mad at me, and they all left. And we paid the rent with the savings for a little while. And some more folks came, and then they got mad. We paid the rent with the savings for a little while, and then some more folks came, and they got mad or hurt. And we went down to just 5 again, and we paid the rent out of savings for a little while. and then some more folks came. But long story short, I wanted to give you a little history to see our side. 2021, everything was falling apart in the family. One of my children was running away. My daughter was out of college. We were just frantic and stressed and frustrated and bitter and ready to quit. We didn't know what to do. I wanted to help people. We had a broken marriage, and we thought, hey, God's helped us. We're here. Look at us going along. We wanted to help people, and we couldn't. I looked at my Bible college notes. Couldn't help anybody. I found books, discipleship. Man, I thought if I could get the right discipleship stuff, I'll be able to help people when they come to the church. If I preach the right sermons, if I have the right attitude. I went from, a passive, non-walking preacher to a yelling preacher to I didn't know what I wanted to be. I'd listen to this person's sermon, I'd be that preacher. I'd listen to this person's sermon, and I'd be that preacher. And I just a mess. Into 2021, we were just a mess. We were tired. We were trying to raise our kids. 8 years in the pastoring, unable to help anybody, and because my memory is so terrible, I'm going to read the rest of it. And we wanted to, we were unable to help anybody like we wanted to, or like we thought we should be able to with Scripture. We got the Bible, why can't we help people? Our youngest son was in a bad way, emotion-led. Our oldest son was in the same, in a different way. We didn't know it. Y'all heard Shelby's testimony. She was in a bad way. The whole family was just in a bad way. And I'll tell you this right now, if I run out of time, I'll tell the rest of them. I won't, that's fine. But I'll tell you this, what Brother Cooper was preaching, or teaching, preaching, giving to us this morning. If you don't get anything else, and if nothing else changes, if you have little children in here, please get that book. Please change your life. Please change your life. Because I can't change what we did. I can't change the mistakes we made. My hope is I can take young people under my wing and help them to make the right choices. And we pray for our children. But please get the book, call somebody, get your pastor, and say, help me, I want to raise these kids right and raise them in love. We begin to look for help. You need a biblical counselor, not a secular counselor or a Christian counselor, or not a traditional Baptist counselor. A lot of the Baptist pastors that I'm friends with or work, that I'm acquainted with or whatever, their Methodist counseling was, if you can't get it in the sermon, you're not going to get it. And so they wouldn't counsel. Because you're listening to sermons, you have everything you need in those sermons. What I've learned as a biblical counselor is that folks aren't in a way to understand it from the pulpit all the time. You got to sit with them, and you got to love them, and you got to talk to them, and they got to express to you why they don't understand what you're trying to tell them, and then you bring it back and you try to tell them in a different way. And we needed help. We went to some, and we weren't able to get very much help. One pastor told our child, you know what's right, you know what's wrong, and do what's right. Another pastor told one of our children, he talked bad about his wife for the rest of the whole time that he was trying to counsel one of our children. He talked about how women just don't understand. I regret that so much. Because I think it caused a lot of grief in one of my son's lives. We grudgingly agreed, somehow, not really sure what led to it. I searched for a lot of stuff. What's very funny is I told Brother Cooper, I met Brother Cooper in 2021. I subscribed to his newsletter in 2019. It's sitting here going in my email for 3 years. Going over to a folder that I'll read one day. The articles I'll read one day. And it's just terrible. Brother Cooper returned my call, nobody else did. Conversation didn't go as expected. I was looking for counsel for my youngest son due to the issues we were having. He told me he wouldn't counsel my youngest son, he would counsel me and my wife. And that often it would resolve the issues of the children. We agreed grudgingly, extremely grudgingly. We were going to get through, and it wasn't just Nikki. I didn't want to do it either. Pride, bitterness. I didn't want to do it. I just said, look, if I go through this, he'll talk to Sam, and we'll be done. My son, sorry. We'll be done. We grudgingly agreed. Did not think we needed help to ourselves. We were going to be okay. You ever seen the meme with the dog? He's sitting at a desk. It's fine, everything's fine. The house on fire behind him. Brother Cooper returned, blah, blah, blah. We agreed. We were hesitant, almost belligerent about some things we were trying to do. Read 1 John every day for 30 days. The amount of homework, you guys think you're getting homework. The amount of homework we had to do. I'm like, I'm a bivocational pastor. I work 50 plus hours a week. And I pastor a church. And I've got to prepare sermons. And you want me to do all this homework. I was not happy. But we did it. we complied. Brother Cooper told us to be patient. About 4 weeks it would start to kick in. Needless to say, it did. I found that with my counselees too. About 4 weeks, give it 4 weeks, you'll start to figure it out. We began to see things, we began to grow. We began to then send our assignments to our children. We sent our stuff to Shelby and said, do this, and she would do it. I scanned Brother Cooper's book, sent it to her. We bought them later, so sent it to her. We bought them, but to get them to college and stuff, I was emailing them to her so she'd have it. And she began to change. She came home and told us that there were things that she needed to get right, and she started working her life. And I think it was just amazing. My wife had vivid night terrors for most of her teenage and adult life. She didn't elaborate too greatly, but every single night, the whole time I ever knew her, she had night terrors. She never woke up one night without, I can't think of one handful of time. I can't think of more than 1 or 2 nights in our entire marriage until a few weeks into our counseling that she woke, without a night terror. She rarely got a night's sleep. Because the counseling past, she was able to see that resolved. She has not had a night terror since about 10 weeks in to the counseling. She's had some nightmares, but not top night terrors, if you aren't aware of the difference. Night terrors are vivid, real, and you're not really sleeping, and it's pointless to sleep. We're 211 weeks into our journey, and the Lord has spoken to us every single day in our devotions. I encourage folks, if you can't, if you don't hear from the Lord every day, you're not hearing from the Lord. The Lord needs to speak to us every day. We have to have an intimate personal passionate relationship with Him on a day-by-day basis. And I'll encourage you to do that. I encourage you to get with Brother Cooper and follow his materials and learn. One of the things I did learn about the books is it helps me a lot with our counselees. They read the books. They don't really get it until I sit down with them and start talking through it with them. And so I encourage you, if you need help, to reach out. All right, thank you.